And we are back. Hope you enjoyed those ads. I certainly did. I learned not a whole lot, if I'm being honest. Still trying to figure out what Pew Pew is. From my understanding right now, they're a game news site? Question mark?
I like how you say something different every time. You're like, hey, my understanding, it's like a fitness app sort of thing. You know, it helps you get into that REM sleep cycle.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know, you can run with it.
There you go. As we get,
I was gonna say there's just one segment here called Popular Game Acceleration Tutorial.
Ah.
I'm sure that's a direct translation from Google, but
I'm sure.
Not sure what it means.
As we are getting ready here for our next matchup, here we go. Some of the best in the foreign scene going to be facing off here. Serral and Reynor in potentially a ZvZ. I say that just because I'm not too sure if Reynor is willing and opting to switch races into Protoss. He's done it before against Serral. We'll see if he will do it again. I know he has been dabbling a little bit in the off racing more recently, but we'll see.
Yeah, we heard it pretty recently as well. I believe it was Lambo who said it, that Reynor has been pretty vocal about not liking ZvZ right now. But regardless, here we are now on Hecate. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have a blue Zerg player from Finland representing Basilisk Gaming. We have Serral.
And in the top right, we have his opponent also representing Basilisk Gaming, or Basilisk. It is Reynor. Here we go. And if you're in the chat, predictions are open. Predictions open. So you can place your bets. We have confirmation that it is going to be, for now at least, a ZvZ.
Indeed. It would have been so funny if Reynor was actually queuing in as random.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible. Don't know if he'd be willing to really risk it all like that, but already the openers are going to be diverging. So this is something that Reynor's been very fond of. There's been two players, Reynor and Shin, have been very fond of the 15-15 in ZvZs and ZvTs. So yeah, Reynor likewise going to be whipping it out here on Hecate.
Indeed. Starting a bit more aggressive, something that will allow you to take map control a little bit earlier on. But, of course, with the obvious downside that, you know, it's not as economical as a standard Zerg opening.
Yeah, so speaking of, Serral is going for a hatch gas pool, so a standard opener out of Serral. Basically, with a 15-15, very similar to what we saw from Dark against Oliveira, your gases are much later. They're not as late as what Dark was doing against Oliveira, because it was just going gasless. But with a delayed gas from Reynor, he basically should be going into roaches from here. This typically leads into 2-base roach play, just because of how late your gases are. But we also have other options available. You can like fake out 2-base roach and rush into link speed and link flood, or you can even do something crazy like 2-base muta.
Ooh, it's been a while since we've seen those, haven't it? It feels like that was one glorious moment in, like, I mean, the years are starting to melt together, so I don't remember if it was 2022 or 2023, but there was like a solid maybe 4 months where we saw Zerg players do Muta openings again and start developing Muta builds again, and then we just never saw it again.
Yeah, they have like their
and it just kind of stopped.
It's not in season, you know. They have their seasons of mutas, you know, when they do kind of thrive and they do pop out. But for the time being, we do see Reynor again just making as many queens as possible. As we mentioned, he did get late gases. Ooh, but we can see here, he is still investing into link speed. That is a little bit suspect for Reynor. I did mention that this build usually leads into 2-base roach, and if we get into link speed, it is with purpose.
Indeed it is. To make the links faster.
You're not wrong. Not wrong. So we do see Reynor just going to be walling off there with that Eva Chamber. Should be soon throwing down a Roach Warren as well. The advantage that Serral has is a faster third, of course. He's going into a third base, and he is skipping the Bailey Nest. This is why you go into fasting speed like this from Reynor. His goal... Yep, there we go. It's going to be a Ling Bane all in, and his goal is to lure Serral out and make him believe that it is going to be 2-base Roach instead.
Yeah, especially if you can get these Lings in the middle of the map. Would absolutely be huge. We see Serral right now is trying to... he knows he has the economic advantage, so he is going to try to get his own Roach Horn out fast, and Roaches can do pretty well against Lings, so long as they don't get surrounded.
Exactly, and without Banelings, we do see things in favor of Reynor. We do force a cancel at the third base, so a nice pick off there from Serral, that is true. But again, the big differential factor here is that he skipped his Baneling Nest, or I say skipped it. Again, he believed it was safe to skip it, as he is amassing roaches as we speak. Meanwhile, Reynor is going for everything across the map. He's sending it.
Sending it all, papi. There's the question, do you think the amount of Lings that Serral saw Reynor had might have been a bit of a tell?
I mean, now it is. He sees link speed, which is like crazy. So, Serral, he's cutting workers. He's cutting workers, and now he's making nothing but roaches. Fun fact, by the way, Reynor is droning behind this, so the turn is about to table. If Reynor doesn't trade well enough here, he will trigger a big counterattack out of Serral.
Yeah, he needs to be very, very careful. He does have link speed, but he doesn't have Baneling speed. Neither player has Lair yet at the moment. Serral needs to do everything he can to try to isolate these Banelings, maybe snipe them out, and once he does, he will be in a prime position to counterattack.
Yeah, because now there's a big window. Now that the aggression has been deflected, there's no roach run for Reynor, so he's behind when it comes to roach production. Serral suddenly in a better position, but as you mentioned, without the lair, without roach speed, it takes a while to get across the map. Serral, he's just droning. He survived, and I mean, he's aware that he's up a base, so he's happy and content to just drone from here.
Yeah, might as well. It's not typically Serral's style to get too crazy when it comes to counterattacks and stuff like that. He does typically like to make sure he has a very solid economic base before he engages in any aggression in a normal game anyway.
Definitely. So this is a pretty tense game so far, but things going to be easing up a little bit. Good scout here from Serral. Does realize the delayed saturation at the natural. It looks like Reynor was cutting workers. Now we're going back into drones. Basically, this is a big game of chicken. You know, who decides to cut workers, who doesn't, who commits, and who doesn't as well. We see a spine crawler on the way. Reynor, he's revealing his army in the center of the map to the overlords. He's revealing a push, but Reynor isn't actually committed here. He's droning back at home if you look at the production tab, so he's trying to fake out Serral.
Yeah, trying to force a bit of an overreaction, which seems to be working as Serral is throwing down Spinecrawler. I think he might have caught wind of this, though.
Yeah, he canceled.
As that Spinecrawler does get... They get cancelled. Serral's army is a little bit isolated. Some of these roaches do get surrounded, but there are Lings backing him up. Reynor will be deflected for now, but once again, this is good for Reynor. As long as he is able to force Serral to stay on his side of the map while he himself drones up. He is getting his fourth base much quicker than Serral is right now. Then Reynor is fine with not, being able to push too deep into Serral.
Yeah, so basically Reynor, as you mentioned, got away with droning, but Serral is getting away with some tech. He was, done trying to play this game of chicken. He threw down a Spire. Very fast Spire here from Serral so far. Unscattered. It is hidden in the natural base. It's going to be on Reynor to try to catch wind of it. If he doesn't, these mutas can give Serral map control, and they can give him a lot of momentum.
Yeah, there's that little brief period where if you do scout the mutas early on and you are the player who has a lot more roaches, you can just go straight into your opponent's base and try to take them out, and try to cripple them economically. But if you're the player with mutas, banks them up a little bit and is able to catch you by surprise, you have absolutely no anti-air to deal with that.
Exactly.
The few queens you have at each base isn't going to cut it at that point.
Yeah, we only have injecting queens basically here for Reynor, so he has to be very careful. Lings go for a big counterattack. We do pick up a couple of gas mining workers. 3 drones go down. Very nice pickups here from Serral, and there it is. 6 mutas are on the way. And as we just saw with the Observer, it has not been scouted. The Spire has not been seen by Reynor.
Which is reflected in his production right now. He has no Spore Crawlers, he has no Hydra Den, he's not getting any more Queens at this point. It's all just drones, roaches, upgrades. Hydra Den being thrown down now, but it's possibly too late.
Yeah, I mean...
Probably too late.
It was thrown down after a couple of Overlords are getting picked off, so good pickups here by Serral. Thankfully for Reynor, he actually has Overlord speed, so he's racing these Overlords back home. It looks like it will still get picked off at the same time. Reynor setting everything right through the center of the map.
Yeah, this is that window that we were talking about. Reynor knows that he is up when it comes to roaches and stuff because Serral got these mutas, but we'll see how important that is or how impactful that is if Serral can get a concave. So far, he's not getting it. Reynor busts on through.
Yeah, he's breaking through. The Ravagers were delayed, by the way. We needed those vials here and now, but it looks like we're barely forcing this back. The Muta's doing a lot of free chip damage here to the main army, and Reynor, he doesn't really feel this attack. He's pulling back, but he's amassing Hydras back at home.
Yeah, that's exactly what he needs right now. I think I appreciate this choice from Serral as well, that he only got these 6 Mutalisks to retake map control.
Yeah, no big.
Would have been cool to see an Apocalypse of Mutas, but you know.
I would have preferred.
He's being smart about it.
Yeah, just aping it up and making mass Muta would have been great. True.
Look, 6 Mutas, that's not even a problem.
You're not wrong. I mean, they're creating a bit of a problem here. They're getting a couple of extra damage done on the right-hand side, getting a drone here and there, getting a gas geyser at the same time, a roach run by, but ooh, it looks like Serral does run into reinforcements.
Yeah, this delays a lot of the economic damage that Serral wanted to deal. Ravagers are throwing down their vials and not quite landing. A couple of Hydras do get picked off here for Reynor. But it's not the biggest of deals right now.
Yeah, the Mutas, they did take down a gas geyser. They get an Overlord, they go into the main base looking for another gas geyser if possible. And Serral, I believe, is still committed to Roach Ravager. He hasn't taken up into Hydras, which means Reynor has the option to rush into Lunkers.
Ooh, that is an option right now. Especially since he is throwing out an infestation pit. Serral is getting his hive, but we'll see what he actually utilizes it for.
Yeah, interesting.
Again, he doesn't have a Hydra then, so...
Yeah, really interesting that Serral is rushing to the hive as quickly as he is without throwing down the hydrogen. Meanwhile, the roaches, they just keep trading with each other. So far, Serral able to keep up with the army of Reynor. Hydras don't really help too much in Roach v Roach. They're not as ideal as Ravagers. But what's really ideal is those lurkers, and we should be working towards that eventually. There's that hydrogen that we were waiting for from Serral.
Yeah, much later. Unfortunately for Serral, but he is going to try to make up for it with Tumbling Claws.
Yeah, okay, so Serral's going to try to harass here with his roaches, make better use of them. Meanwhile, there's a Lunker Den on the way for Reynor. So Reynor, he's ahead when it comes to Hydra Lurker Viper. Serral is one step behind, but he also throws down his own Lurker Den as well.
Yeah, not too much later than Reynor, surprisingly.
Yeah, exactly, but are we fighting too soon here? Serral does land a couple of these files, but he's being forced back.
Yeah, a little bit of an inefficient trade here for Serral. That second wave of biles landed, then I would say that it was worth it here, but unfortunately they didn't. Reynor did pull back, and so in the end it didn't seem very worth it for him.
Yeah, and a good counterattack here from Reynor. Does peel off a couple of roaches. There is a spine crawler in position. At the same time, Reynor pushing right through towards the left-hand side as well, trying to break through the army, but with reinforcements, Serral should barely have enough.
Indeed, he should. With reinforcements with corrosive biles. Ooh, accidentally bowing himself there for a second. Serral should have enough. More reinforcements coming in for Reynor, but so are the reinforcements of Serral. Reynor will be chased back.
Yeah,
but he trades away a lot of these roaches that he wanted to get rid of.
He does trade out some of these roaches here, but these were rough fights, especially on the right-hand side. He lost his harassing force as well. That spine crawler did come in clutch, and now we're getting out of roaches and into our higher tech. Reynor has got 5 Vipers in production, and all the lurker upgrades, all the lurker-related upgrades are on the way for both players.
Indeed, they are. Of course, big difference right now would be that Reynor has already started refining his army. Serral needs to start shedding some of his supply in order to get there.
Yeah, he's got a couple of Hydra sprinkled in, but no lurkers yet. We're pushing on through. We do get a kill on some of the side defense. The spine crawler does go down. Serral looks like he actually can gain ground here.
Yeah, he sees the opening. He knows that Reynor doesn't quite have his end game army just yet. He doesn't have his lurkers in position. He doesn't have his Vipers or any energy on those Vipers. So while he has the larger army, he's going to make use of it. He has already taken out that hatch to be. He has already killed a lot of the static defense. Is being chased away now, right at the very end. But again, Serral has traded away some of his more inefficient units, and now he is able to start refining his own army.
Yeah, so he's been trading very well here. That was a kill, not a cancel on the hatchery on the right-hand side. As you mentioned, he killed a lot of static defense as well. Yes, Reynor is getting to Vipers, that's true, but so is Serral. You know, this no longer is a big kind of power spike for Reynor like it should have been. Vipers are moving out, but once again, Serral slips in with a couple of roaches.
Yeah, forces everything back. Reynor wanted to push in while he had the advantage, while he had the lurker advantage, but now that advantage is pretty much gone. Serral has still no lurkers of his own just yet.
Not yet, but we have roaches slipping into the main base, we have roaches hitting the third, we have the main army hitting the would-be fifth base as well, and Serral, he's kind of pulling Reynor apart a little bit here, as you mentioned, forcing him to stay at home, and that's so important because Reynor did have the advantage, he did have the better upgrades, he was getting into Vipers a lot faster as well, he's not able to make use of it.
Not at all. His lurkers are hanging about by another base, trying to catch any tunneling clawed roaches. They are not here in position to fight, and as a result, Serral lands a couple of corrosive vials, takes a very efficient trade.
He really does, and now we're getting into Hydra Lurker Viper. Now Serral, he's just getting rid of as many roaches as he can, replacing them with Hydras instead. Does have to be very careful with his army. Again, these spellcasters are very vulnerable, as both armies are soon to clash. Reynor maxing out here, getting into the center of the map, finally picking up some of these mutas. I can't believe some of them are still alive.
Yeah, oh, only one. They're all gone.
They did more than pay for themselves, though, as they do get cleaned up, and we do see Serral just amassing those lurkers, is pushing on the right-hand side. There are only roaches to defend, though, which means Serral, he's breaking through.
Yeah, without much of a fight, he has one lurker of his own, but that is enough when you don't have too many forces to defend and when you don't have detection back at home.
Yeah, exactly. So we see Serral forcing back the army, trading well against the roaches of his opponent. He could even get into the middle line as well. Then we get Lurker does burrow behind that middle line. As you can see on the minimap, the main army pushing right through the middle here for Serral, again, trying to pull Reynor apart.
Yeah, positioning is absolutely on Serral's side right now. Trying to break through this choke point, but thankfully for Reynor, there are still a couple of reinforcements here. No lurkers yet, but yeah, he does have that concave going his way. 5 Vipers, Light. What do you think of that? Is it a good amount, or is that starting to be excessive?
Now we need more.
Oh.
So, depending on where we get when it comes to lurkers, fun fact, ZvZ is Ling Bane versus Ling Bane, then it's Roach v Roach, then it's Lurker v Lurker, then it's Viper v Viper. Like, at a certain point, once the lurker count gets high enough for both players, it's all about the Vipers. They suddenly become that much more important to actually break these siege lines if we do get into, like, that critical mass of lurker versus lurker.
So far, neither player has really been able to get to their lurkers just yet.
Yeah, there's a handful here and there. We do see a good chunk of them, I believe 6 or 7, with Serral's main army pushing right through the middle again, looking for a way up some of these ramps. Again, Hecate is very choked up. We do yoink some of the Vipers.
Yeah, huge pickups here for Serral. 5 Vipers, and none of them were really able to get any spells off.
Yeah, other than the abductions, I think Reynor has 1 Viper left. The Vipers of Serral just achieving that much more here, and suddenly he has a little momentum.
Yeah, suddenly he can take the initiative. This is a very entrenched position here for Reynor, so Serral is going to try to come in with a bit of a flank. He is the first player to siege. Siege? Burrow. Same concept.
Yeah, same thing. Here we go. We go for the abductions as well. We try to yoink the Vipers, but ooh, it looks like Serral does overextend for a moment. Did bleed out a couple of his own Vipers. They will have to be replaced, and there we go. They are now in production. Likewise, we see Reynor amassing his own Vipers behind this.
Yeah, it will take a while for him to really get that energy up and running. Nice pickups here for Reynor. He is taking out a handful of Hydras at a time, even without Vipers.
Yeah, impressive stuff as he has just gathering up energy. He does take control of the left-hand side. We do see both players with similar economies. Serral is going to be taking an extra base, though, so he'll have a little bit more mining available to him. Ooh, 1 lurker does get picked off, so a good pick off there from Reynor as he does force Serral back.
Yeah, Serral, he had the momentum on his side, but no longer. As Reynor is just looking to render him inert. Once again, Serral is the first player to siege. Lurkers of Reynor are starting to get picked off one after another. There's only 1 remaining with this army. Serral has been very deliberate and very accurate when it comes to his abducts.
Yeah, exactly, and you can see why Vipers are so crucial in this matchup. Doesn't matter if you have a line of Lurkers, because you can pick them up 1 at a time. And then we go, we have the abductions here, the Vipers on Vipers.
Oh, it's a little too spicy for me. Huge blinding clouds, but of course, roaches and hydras, they do not care. They will just walk on through them. Reynor has once again been knocked down to only 1 Viper remaining. barely any lurkers.
Yeah, both players, they abducted each other, but as you said, Serral, he did trade a little bit better there. He had more to support his army, and he's been picking off lurkers. Oh my god! Catching a lot of roaches here in the center of the map as well. A good trap set up by Serral.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a Hail Mary there by Reynor, but Serral, he preempted it, he was ready, he was able to pick off another chunk of Reynor's army.
He was. You can see Vipers once again being rebuilt. Serral has been trading more efficiently overall so far, but we'll see if he can keep it up, as this can still swing in favor of Reynor if he does catch an army, if he does manage to catch a couple of these high-tech units.
Yeah, it's a very delicate dance that they're playing right now. Obviously, Reynor needs to split his army because he doesn't really want to take a head-on engagement. He knows he'll be at a bit of a deficit here, but if he splits up his army too much, Serral can just pick off his what's a mini army called? Like, what's one level below an army? These groups, one by one.
Yeah, the force.
You just pick off these
group,
groups.
like,
Forces,
yeah.
Divisions.
There you go. Platoon.
Platoons.
Battalion.
Splatoons. Battle lions.
And here we go. We see Serral amassing his army on the right-hand side. I think he's got like 8 or 9 Vipers with his army, and that's a lot of reductions. His goal is to shut down the Vipers and the Lurkers of his opponent. We'll see if he can pull it off, as we do see Reynor taking the initiative, but he does get yoinked.
Does get yoinked, does get blinding clouded. Vipers are starting to go down, but Serral has much more of them, and he can afford to lose a couple of his Vipers, which Reynor could not, really.
Exactly, as it looked like Serral didn't quite have enough lurkers in range. They were a little bit too far behind, so he couldn't quite take full advantage of that. Does get forced back. Reynor gaining a bit of ground here. Meanwhile, the mass lurker army of Serral still just hoping to catch an army in the center of the map. Oh.
That's probably the best course of action for him right now. Nice yoinks on the Overseer.
An Overseer gets 1 lurker as well. We can see additional Vipers being produced, of course. I'm still waiting for Serral to make his move. Like, that lurker army has potential not just to take control of that area of the map, of course, but to also push into a mineral line as well. We can see Reynor, he's hunting for it, though.
Yeah, he wants it. He catches wind of them. He wants to catch these lurkers, but they are a little too fast. Serral looking to burrow somewhere.
There we go. He does take control of the ramp as well, at the same time pushing right through the right-hand side as well with his Vipers.
Yeah, Reynor a little bit too distracted trying to deal with those lurkers. Huge blinding clouds block the entire army of Reynor. Finally, Reynor will be able to deal with those lurkers of Serral up that ramp, but he loses a lot. I say he is able to deal with them. No, there are still like 3 lurkers remaining on that ramp, and there's no answer to the lurkers of Serral in the main force.
The concave was too good. It was just too good here. Massive splash that's going to be going up here on the Hydras. Finally, they're going to be cleaned up, but at the cost of a base. Serral, he did take down that 3rd.
Massive choke points. Huge choke points, yeah. Now user players know how it feels.
Exactly, so just taking full advantage of that. At the same time, 1 lurker denying mining here on the right-hand side. Finally, the last lurker does get taken out in the main base as well, but Reynor, he's bleeding out quite a lot here. He still has a bank to work with, but nowhere near as large as Serral's.
Yeah, he's been taking a lot of hits throughout this game. Serral has been trading a lot more efficiently, but now it really does feel like there's going to be some sustained damage here for Reynor, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, Reynor, he needs something to go his way. He has to catch an army out of position or catch a base exposed. He needs some kind of pickoff here.
Oh, Lord.
Just because Serral's just been trading so well.
That's a solid 5,000 more minerals that Reynor has lost.
Yeah.
To the attacks of Serral.
It's been a little bit brutal here. I mean, Reynor, he is maxed out. Like, he can still make something happen with this army. It has amassed his Vipers. I believe he has, I want to say 9 Vipers here. Sorry, 8 Vipers with his army.
Yeah. But he's going up against the 9 Vipers of Serral, so.
Yeah. You're not wrong. It's all about who pulls the trigger first, who yoink first, who does yoink first when it comes to their opposing Vipers. At the same time, Serral going for a run by, does get a couple of workers, does deny some mining time.
Yeah, and I just noticed this. Reynor's lurker den got sniped earlier on.
Ooh. That was a big pickup, actually. So suddenly, Reynor can't reproduce his lurkers for a little bit here. It is being replaced. At the same time, Serral pushing on the right-hand side, takes down the gas geyser, is forcing a reaction out of Serral, while both main armies skirmish in the center of the map.
Yeah, it's a very delicate back and forth that we've got right now.
Serral, he's edging ever closer. At the same time, Reynor, he's trying to catch Serral, not paying attention to the army, trying to catch him, lacking a little bit there in the center of the map, but doesn't quite get him.
Not yet, anyways. As Reynor just continuing to lose more and more drones. He's being forced to pull his army back to deal with this, and this is exactly what Serral wants.
Yeah, and even though these lurkers are going to be going down, he killed 14 workers. We traded so well here, and now Serral, he wants to try to engage with that main army. Can he do so? Another base is going to be denied. Good pick off there by Reynor.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, he is hurting when it comes to the worker count, but Serral's bases are starting to get mined out as well.
Does need that base up and running. Meanwhile, that lurker's still alive, by the way. 18 drones go down, but here we go. The main army's going to be clashing.
And this looks like it could be the last hurrah here for Reynor. He needs to do some damage right now, otherwise he's not really going to be able to sustain his army as this game continues.
A couple of nice yoinks go off. We do see Serral going for the Overseers, not the Vipers. Interesting choice, does pick most of them off. Reynor actually is lacking a lot of lurkers with his army. He just made 2 of them to kind of maraude around, but he's mainly relying on Hydra Viper.
Yeah, I mean, that really shows how impactful having a key tech building sniped, even if you remake it immediately, can really be.
Yeah, also,
you're just that far. Yeah, you just have that many extra minutes where you aren't able to produce the units that you need.
Exactly. We're trying to get into that eventually here. Once Reynor does lose a couple of units, he can, of course, replenish his army. Meanwhile, the drones, they came back too soon. 7 of them go down. They were stacked up, and yes, Serral, he's just picking Reynor apart left and right. We have lurkers harassing both fringe bases.
Yeah, well, ordinarily, I would say that, you know, Reynor should be trading some of his drones to get a super maxed army. Looking at his bank, now is not the time.
Yeah, and that's a kill on that hatchery as well. We can even catch some of these transferring workers as Serral is collapsing on these stray units, trying to pick up whatever he can. And Reynor, he's down to 1 mining base. The top left is the last mining base here for Reynor.
Yeah. Now he's starting to lose more of his gas-intensive units. Reynor trying to sneak around, trying to figure out whatever he can get done. Honestly, I still like Reynor's army quite a bit. It's not very refined. He could use a couple more lurkers with this, but he's got a solid Viper count, and he does have a much higher army supply than Serral. He just can't find his trench position.
Speaking of massive reductions here on almost every single Viper. Big power bombs here on top of the Vipers of Serral, but the Hydras are going to be collapsing. Massive blinding clouds from both players are thrown down. Serral's army is so softened up. His Vipers are softened up. Reynor takes a decent trade there, but again, he can't replace his army. Serral can.
Yeah, I think this might be the first time Reynor has been able to come up ahead when it comes to the Viper battles, but it's like you said, Serral can afford these losses. Reynor can afford less than those losses.
Yeah, exactly. As we get the final abductions here, there's 3 Vipers left for Reynor. He does pull back to a handful of his lurkers. The hatchery goes down, 26 drones as well. Again, this was a good fight for Reynor, if only he wasn't broke, because he has almost 0 gas in the bank.
It's a good fight, but not a fight that'll win in the game.
Yeah, as we come in with reinforcements, we yoink what little is left here when it comes to the lurkers. Serral cleans up a lot of those Hydras at the same time. Here comes the reinforcements. Reynor, he's pushing it on the left-hand side.
Yeah, if you can somehow manage to flank Serral's army, then maybe I can see something happening if you can get the sandwich, but it's still going to be tough. Serral is ahead, a solid 40 army supply.
He is. We have detection as well, just in time to deal with these lurkers. Big spine shots go off on the army of Serral, though, so a good engagement overall from Reynor, but here come those Vipers, and we're looking for abductions.
All of a sudden, this is getting a lot closer than it should be.
It really is. Like, again, Reynor has been taking some really good fights. Impressive engagements here out of Reynor. He has been able to get damage done, don't get us wrong, but it's still not enough.
Well, yeah, it really isn't. I was going to say, both players spent their banks, but both players spent their gas banks. Serral still has a huge mineral bank, and I mean, he has +1 melee. He might be able to get something done there.
He might be able to as he's pushing in. Big blinding cloud here on top of the Hydras, and again, we are looking to abduct. Just barely out of range when it comes to detection. Serral can't actually get on top of those lurkers, and Reynor is pushing in once again. Serral's actually out of gas mining. 0 gas income for Serral, by the way. Reynor is mining gas. Oh.
Indeed he is, but he doesn't have any units to make use of them. GG is called, and Serral will be taking game number 1. The longest game we've had so far this evening, and this is exactly why I think we were all hyped to get into Serral versus Reynor.
100%. GG, well played. Serral played a very clinical ZvZ there, just at every turn. When it came to the mid game, once we got into the mid game, like Serral, it felt like he was in the driver's seat. Towards the end there, Reynor was taking better fights. He was engaging better. He was controlling better than Serral. This is true. If only he had an economy behind it. If only Serral wasn't dominating earlier, right, and crippling the economy of Reynor.
Yeah. It's one of those moments where where Reynor was taking good fights too late, whereas Serral was taking good fights exactly when he needed to take them.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And yeah, with that, Serral does take game number 1, but it's a best of 3, so we have options. We can, of course, fight back here for Reynor. Can we also race switch? Can we whip out the Protoss? Do we want to whip out the Protoss?
Yeah, I'm not too sure what the rules here are for Masters Coliseum, if they do allow mid-series race switching, but if they do, I wouldn't be too surprised if we see Reynor whip it out, if Reynor says, "This is why I hate ZvZ," and all of a sudden we see PvZ.
Yeah, I mean, ZvZ, it is very positional based. It reminds me a little bit of TVT, like you were alluding to, like sieging units and stuff like that, but like it really is very positional based, but it's a lot faster just because the ground units in general do maneuver a little bit quicker, and you have to be so on point when it comes to your own positioning and your own map control and map awareness. Yeah. It can be really intense, and I mean, Serral clearly showed us that he is so damn good at it.
Now you feel my pain. TVT every time. True. Although you don't have an equivalent to Liberator, so.
Yes, thankfully. But yeah, to be fair as well, this is also specifically when it comes to late game ZvZ. It's also possible that on a smaller map like Hardlead, which is a smaller map by the way, does have a shorter rush. This is the shortest rush distance map in the map pool. We could try to end the game a lot earlier.
Yeah. Show me some Lings, Reynor. Show me some Banes. He was... I can't believe I completely forgot about that, but this game did open up with Reynor trying to Bane bust Serral.
Yeah.
You know, he trying to fake Serral out into a little bit of a Ling flood with a Bane bust, but obviously it didn't quite work out. Serral was quick to scout and react to that, so maybe game number 2, if I already forgot about that. Maybe Serral has as well.
I'd like to think his memory is a little bit better than ours, but it's possible. It's possible. Yeah, you're not wrong, right? Reynor, he was trying to be aggressive. He was trying to catch Serral out in the beginning, in the early game of game number 1, but Serral was so good at scouting. I don't know if you caught wind of it, but we kept checking. The observer kept noticing that Serral would constantly send link scouts. Constant link scouts at the third base and the natural as well. In the main base, he was just always on top of whether or not Reynor was droning or not, and recognizing, you know, that he had to cancel the spine crawl, he didn't need it, recognizing that of course his opponent would be macroing and he'd be able to keep up at every turn.
Yeah, very diligent scouting coming out here from Serral. Having a little bit of an extended, well, I say break, but both of our players are clearly still here. So
we have the TikTok. We can see them. Out. We can see them. We do know that they have not stepped out.
Unless they hacked the feed.
Oh.
It was actually a pre-recorded thingy. But nothing to worry about. Here we are now on Hardlead. In the top left, we have a Blue Zerg player representing Basilisk. We have Serral from Finland.
And in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the Italian Zerg player, also representing Basilisk. It is Reynor.
Now blonde.
A white. It's like fully bleached out. It's crazy.
It is, yeah. He is taking after Asher's footsteps. When Asher was his age, you know.
True. Fun fact: on EU, Reynor did change his ID, his in-game name, to Jack Frost.
There we go. I was thinking Vanilla Ice, but I guess that's a generational difference.
That is, yeah. Don't try to pretend like you're part of my generation. What are you trying to pull, Yaku? What are you saying? You're like, oh, these kids, they don't know Vanilla Ice like I do. What are you talking about, Yaku?
Look, he looks a bit like Vanilla.
Shaking my head. But here we go, we're getting into our openers, and Reynor this time is not going for a 15-15, this time it is a standard hatch gas pool.
Yeah, not trying to do any fake outs this time like he was in game number 1. Feeling a little bit more confident in more of a standard game. I say standard, but of course, we're on Heartled. It's a very short rush to this map, and there is still potential for Reynor to whip out, say, a Baneling Nest or an early Roach Warren.
Oh yeah. There is always potential for aggression, even when we're taking our third bases. We can always cut workers and just go pure Ling Bane and catch your opponent off guard. This map does lend to it, as you mentioned. But it's difficult, right? Because again, Reynor is down in this series, and I'm sure Serral is going to be that much more adept at scouting. I'm sure he's fully aware of the aggressive potential of Reynor, and as we saw in the previous game, it's on Serral to scout and make sure that everything is on the up and up.
Yeah. Which, if game number 1 is an indication, you shouldn't have to worry too much for Serral in that regard here. In game number 2, he is a player who takes that old saying, knowing is half the battle, really to heart, I think.
Yeah, knowledge is key. Like, it's a big part of StarCraft, being aware of what your opponent's up to, especially in mirror matchups. Not just ZvZ, but TvT and PvP is just a major part of it, just because you have very similar or the same tools to work with. So, we'll see how this does unfold as both players take their third bases on time, and this time, no one skips their Baneling Nest.
Yeah. We're safe, we are secure. Well, for now. We'll see who decides to initiate first, as both players do scout that their opponents are doing standard things, taking this seriously, not trying to do any trick outs.
Yeah, exactly. So everything is standard for the time being. We'll see if either one of these players does produce a wave of Lings. We can see 10 Lings in production here for Reynor, so he does invest a little bit more here. We'll see if he doubles down and makes additionals. Meanwhile, Serral should be making safety Banelings as soon as the Baneling Nest is done, as we are making more Lings.
That's a lot of Lings. And not too many drones behind all of this. Reynor has stopped. Ling speed has finished up. He is pooling his Lings together, and now he's pulling the trigger.
There we go. He is going to be sending it across the map. Now, Serral has scouted this. He is aware. He's getting ready back at home. We have one Baneling to defend. And once again, Serral, he slips one Ling in just to make sure that nothing crazy is going on behind this, because Reynor is droning up.
Yeah, on top of this, he also pulls back a couple of Reynor's own Lings. Oh, so Reynor makes it to the other side, but isn't here with his full force just yet. Really good snipe here from Reynor.
Yeah.
And with that, he does have quite a lot of control.
Yeah, he does trade better than his opponent. He has one Baneling left over. Good snipe from Serral. They're focusing down at that Baneling with the Queen, and he will force Reynor back. As the dust does settle, both players are going to be joining from here, and we do see Serral did throw down a very early Roach Warren.
Indeed, he did. The window is open. He can go for the counterattack if need be. Things were looking so dicey for a moment after Serral lost his one Baneling, but yeah, once again, Serral, with just the accuracy, with the positioning of the Queens, is able to deflect that.
He's going all in. Serral, he's cutting workers.
Yep.
This is something that Serral has been doing ever since his run-in with Solar, by the way. He has been more aggressive. Like, Solar changed him to the core. And Serral, he is willing to just be the aggressor instead. And here we go. We have 20 more Lings on the way, 4 Banelings as well. Serral, he's going for a big timing with his Roaches. Reynor, he realized what's going on. 3 Spine Crawlers are on the way in the natural, but will they finish in time?
We shall see. Either way, that third base is forfeit.
Third base will be forfeit, but Serral, he wants to go for the kill instead. Banelings will be waddling on in. Decent connections on the Banelings of Serral, but here we go. The Lings are rushing on forward, and we have run out of Banelings for Reynor.
Indeed, we have Lings are trying to slip on in. Good body blocking here with the Queen. Serral decides not to try to break through, instead will be going for the third base.
Yeah, he's going for the third base instead. Good zoning here from Serral's Baneling. At the same time, he's still producing army. He catches the Queens. He lured them out off of creep, and he will shut down every single one of them.
He will shut them all down. The Spine Crawlers are a little bit vulnerable now, but they have managed to root themselves. Serral, once again, is going to have to fight in this third base location rather than going straight for the throat.
Yeah, once again, he catches another surround on some of these Roaches. Again, he's just trying to lure Reynor out. He's trying to force him to expose himself. Third base does fall. As you mentioned, these Spine Crawlers are a little bit more exposed than they otherwise were, so we can collapse on this.
Just like so. Corrosive Bile on top of the Morphing Baneling as well. We have 40 army supply for Serral versus a 22 of Reynor. Reynor has the upgrade advantage, but he does not have the quantity on his side.
Yeah, exactly, and Serral is pushing on through. The boys are being pulled. Drones are going to be going down. Even if Serral is cleaned up here, and now he's doing so much economic damage.
Yeah, without a doubt. He's still not droning, by the way. Despite getting a lair, he is just making roaches, he is just making lings, and he is sending it, puppy.
He is. He's pulling back for now just to regroup, just to consolidate his army. He's up in economy. He's got 49 drones to the 34 of his opponent. We have a third base, and now here we go. Serral is droning. He's working on his lair, roach speed, +1 range. Serral is just getting further and further ahead.
Yeah, you could see Reynor even shake his head a little bit there once he did take stock of what happened, once he realizes how far behind he is when it comes to the economy. He is throwing down a Spire, which I do think is a really good lifeline for him, especially if he can catch Serral off guard, but it's a very narrow window of opportunity between him seeking out those mutas, getting economic damage, and Serral realizing, I am up 50 army supply. I'm just gonna walk my roaches into your base.
Yeah, and this is why, like, modern day Serral is so scary. You know, a year ago, like, Serral, he was known for just being just a macro god, right? Just like always scouting, always responding, always reacting, you know, just that's how he would play things out. But over the past year of play, he has been spicing it up. He has been willing to be the aggressor. Once he sees an opportunity, he will go for the kill, as we just saw. And sure, he may not have killed Reynor, but I mean, Reynor, he's not really living right now. Serral, he's up double army supply.
Yeah, Serral, you know, he used to be a Zerg player, Zerg. Or like the perfect Zerg in a way, where he is just reacting to everything his opponents do. Nowadays, not so much. He's an evolved Zerg, and man, we didn't even get to see the end of that. GG is called. Serral is the first player to leave, by the way. Disconnect, by the way. An abrupt ending to an extremely solid game number 2. Game number 1 was incredibly close. It could have really gone either player's way, but game number 2 was 100% in Serral's hands the entire time.
Very decisive play there out of Serral. He deflected the Lingbane aggression. He threw down a very early Roach Warren, and he went for his own all-in. And we were praising Serral for his scouting. That is true. Even in game number 2, he was scouting very frequently. Reynor wasn't. Reynor, he was more concerned with what he was doing. He wasn't really anticipating his opponent to be the aggressor instead. And again, that's something that you have to bear in mind when dealing with Serral nowadays, is that he will be aggressive if he sees an opportunity to do so. He's not that kind of just purely macro player that he once was in years past. Nowadays, he can go back and forth.
Yeah, he's evolved in a sense, you know? He used to be the archetypal Zerg player who would just react to anything his opponents do, would just have a very solid macro base, but now he can still do that. But he also has a couple of extra tricks up his sleeve.
Yeah, and this was a solid series to showcase that, right? Because what we were talking about was game 1, right? Serral, he was just scouting and reacting just constantly in game number 1. And here in game 2, he just saw an opening. He went for the all-in. He was able to break Reynor before he could really muster up his defenses. And again, as you mentioned, you know, did peter out towards the end of that game. There was no final fight, unfortunately. But Reynor, he just knew how far behind.
Not even a single muta.
Yeah, he knew how far
was
behind
morphed. He had the Spire, but not a single muta was made. Yeah, I don't blame Reynor for tapping out of that position at that point, but again, very well played to Serral here.
Very well played. With that, we're going to be going on a short break. We have one series left. After the break, we'll have a TVP.
Oh, we started with a ZvT. We're ending with a different matchup.
See you guys soon.
See you then.